Greetings, YouTube. Okay, let me put this other image up there. There we go. Because we talking about ancient evolution of the soul. So I wanted to capture some of this knowledge that we have been learning here. I have created this e-booklet that is available on the website that is called Evolution of the Soul Volume 1. And it is basically going to get into a lot of this information about evolution of the soul. Okay, so let's get some of this knowledge. The evolution that we learned about in school is the evolution of the physical form. We learned, for example, that the single cell creatures of the ocean are the predecessors of all more complex forms of life. So that means that everything that evolved from water. We've been learning this about the soul, right? We've been learning that the soul is the elements, nature, water, primordial water. But with it being primordial water, it's also emotions. So the more we learn about our emotions, the more we are learning about our soul, the more we are tapping into soul knowledge. Okay? So we are put here as beings and we evolve single cell at a time, single cell evolution at a time. So when your cells are evolving from within side of your being, what do you think is going to happen on the outside? A physical evolution, right? Because things are happening within. Things are transforming from within. Things are evolving from within. Things are growing from within, right? So let's keep going. A fish is more complex and therefore more evolved than a sponge. A horse is more complex and therefore more evolved than a snake. A monkey is more complex and therefore more evolved than a horse. And so on up to the human being, which is the most complex and therefore the most evolved life form upon our planet. We were taught, in other words, that evolution means the progressive development of organizational complexity. This definition is an expression of the idea that the organism that is best able to control both its environment and all the other organisms in its environment is most evolved. Survival of the fittest means that the most evolved organism is given the environment in the organism that is the top of the food chain in the environment. According to this definition, therefore, the organism that is most able to ensure its own survival must be able to serve its self preservation is most evolved. So self preservation is the most evolved complexity of a mindset that one can have. Greetings, greetings. To preserve yourself, to save yourself, self preservation. Not to look outside yourself for external saviors, but to be able to save yourself. Self preservation. That is the most evolved. That has to be developed from within, right? So there has to be things that you have to work on in order to evolve into that being. Okay? So we have long known that this definition of evolution is inadequate, but we have not known why. When two humans engage one another, there are, in terms organizational complexity, equally evolved. If both have the same intelligence, yet one of them humans are small minded, mean, and selfish, while the other is magnanimous and altruistic, We say that the one who is magnanimous and altruistic is the more evolved, the more complex being, right? So you have to think mindsets. Some people mindsets are more complex than others. Some people mindsets are more altered than others. Some people mindsets are smaller than others. So when we talking to people, we are not equal because of mindsets. Because you have to think mentalities actually control the man. The person becomes their mentality. So if a person has a negative mentality, they become that negative mentality. And they start to grow and evolve in that negative manner. You can have someone else who is growing and evolving a positive mindset. You can have someone who is growing and evolving a balanced mindset. So there are different types of mindsets. So once we have to learn about these mindsets so we can categorize our own and know where our own is. So therefore you can start to become aware of the mindset that you're growing. You could be aware of the seeds that you planting in your man. You could be aware of what you nurturing in your man, right? Because that becomes soul evolution. That is why we're talking about evolution of the soul, because we're talking about the very thoughts alone grow. You can have thoughts that come from unhealed emotions. If you have thoughts from unhealed emotions, them become broken thoughts. Them broken thoughts can create a broken reality. Them broken realities create broken disease and disorder within the body. Right? Greed is Miss Stacy. So it say if one human intentionally sacrifices his or herself to save another, for example, using his or her own body to shield someone from danger, this human who sacrificed his or herself indeed is most evolved among us. Why? Because we know these things to be true, but they are the variance with our understanding of evolution. Because something in their mind was advanced for them to even know that you was in harm's way. Something in their mind had evolved for them to even shelter you from harm. Something in their mind was advanced that even knew to put themselves in a position to shelter you because they knew that you had purpose. They knew that the picture was bigger, the picture was larger, the picture was greater. So this is someone who has a evolved mind. It's just someone who is more in tune with their intuition, more in tune with the ancestral realm, more in tune with the powers that be, right? Because they got a message. They know to shield someone else from harm. They know to love someone else more than they love themselves. You know, to be able to be in a position to do that. Okay, so evolution of the soul. The perception of power as external has shaped the economics. The ability to control economics with communities and with nations, and the ability to control transnational economy of the world is concentrated in the hands of a few people. To protect workers from these people, we have created unions. To protect consumers, we created bureaucracies and government. To protect the poor, we created the welfare system. This is a perfect reflection of how we have come to perceive power as the possessions of a few, while the majority serve it as victims. Money is a symbol of external power. Those who have most money have the most ability to control their environment and those within it, while those who have least money have the least ability to control their environments and those within it. Money is acquired, lost, stolen, inherited, and fought over. Education, social statuses, fame, popularity, and things that we own that are tangible, that are physical. If we derive a sense of increased security from them, are symbols of external power. So people gain these physical things. People in the Bible it say building your riches up on earth, because the Bible say don't build your riches up on earth because it could get stolen, it could grow old, it could tarnish, it could mold, it could get decayed. The Bible is telling you, that don't build your riches up in physical things. Build them up in spiritual things, meaning things that you can't see with your physical eyes. So that means you can see it with your mind. So that's knowledge. That's being able to understand on a higher level, being able to establish things that cannot get stole, being able to establish things that can't get tarnished, being able to establish things that cannot be taken away externally, because these things are built from within, right? So something that is built within on a firm foundation is something that you planted, and it's something that's going to grow, and it's something that's going to be generational wealth because it comes from within, right? Like Kevin said, taking back your estate, right? Building trust where it can't get bought or sold. Building trust to where it stays within the family, regardless of the conditions, regardless of the emotions, regardless of the feelings, regardless of, all that other stuff, keeping true to true self, right? Okay, so anything we fear to lose, a home, a car, a attractive body, a glad man, a deep belief, is a symbol of external power, because we can't lose what is truly ours. Everything else is just the appendage of self. Everything else is just temporary. It's not, it's these things are illusions. These things appear to be real, appear to be permanent, appear to be something that we need. But in all honesty, we have to learn throughout our life that, nothing is forever except for the soul. The soul is eternal. The soul is the only thing that has lived in the past, that's going to live in the present, and that's going to live in the future. The soul. You know, our mother, father, sister, brother, relationship, friendship, all of that is going to at one day pass away. All of that got a begin date. It has a death date. Everything that lives has an expiration date. But the soul is eternal. Okay, so when power is seen as external, and the heresies of our social, economic, political structures, as well as the heresies of the universe, appear as indicators who have powers and who does not. Those at the top appear to have most power, and therefore to be most valuable and least vulnerable. Those at the bottom appear to be least powerful, and therefore to be the least valuable and the most vulnerable. From this perception, the general is more valuable than the private. The executive is more valuable than the chauffeur. The doctor is more valuable than the receptionist. The parent is more valuable than the child. The divine is more valuable than the worshiper. We fear to transgress our parents, our bosses, and our guide. Our perceptions of lesser and greater personal value result from the perception of power as external. So now we got to understand external power and internal power. So, we going to have some homework. We need to, go back to elementary and write on one side of the paper external power and write on the other side internal power. So now we got to go research. Now we got to go reclassify. Now we got to go remember what is external and what is internal. Now we have to understand that everything that is external is tools. Tools that you can use to make your life better. Tools that you can use to help yourself. Tools that you can use to empower yourself. Tools that you can use to enhance your abundancy. But they're just tools. They are not you. So don't get attached to your tools. Because we have a tendency to become our tools. And then when we lose these tools, or it's time to upgrade these tools, or it's time for us to get new tools, we become emotionally and mentally and spiritually attached to things. And when we become so emotionally attached to these things, they become blockages, hindrance, they become crutches, they become injuries. This type of stuff is stopping us from growing. This type of stuff is holding us back. Why? Because we end up losing sight of self. You know what I'm saying? So we definitely need to understand our external value versus our internal value so we could be clear. Okay? So the perception of power as external splinters the psyche. Whether it is the psyche of the individual, the community, the nation, or the world, there is no difference between acute schizophrenia and a world at war. There is no difference between agony of a splintered soul and agony of a splintered nation. When a husband and a wife compete for power, they engage in the same dynamics that humans of one race do when they fear humans of another race. So that harms the marriage. A wife and a husband that can't come together on one accord. They can't put their differences aside. They can't agree to be one. They can't agree to use, I'm going to use my strength where you weak and you use your strength where I'm weak. And we could work together for the common good. We could work together to strengthen the family. We could work together to be a mighty empire. We could work together to be a tribe. We could work together to do what the people that couldn't work together couldn't. So I get what they mean by a wife and a husband that can't come together. So when they can't come together, they family dynamics will never come together. They community will never be strong because they picking and choosing who get to build the community. They picking and choosing how they gonna build it, instead of working together. Right? Because you cannot master love in your heart with hatred for somebody. You get what I'm saying? You can't walk and say that you walking in love, but you steady hate people. And then people hate you for the same reason you hate others. That's going against universal law. So that's where we got to go heal. That's not our battle. Yes, we got done wrong by this person, by that person. That person did this, that person did that. That is not our battle to give them karma. That's not our battle to hold them accountable. That's not our battle to point out what they did and tell everybody about it. It is our job to heal from that. That means we got to do some forgiveness. We got to do some soul searching. We got to do some soul reflecting. We got to look at the laws of the universe here. We got to weigh out the heart on the soul. Weigh out the heart on my skill. We got to pull out the laws of mind and be real with ourselves. Did we break any of these laws? We need to pull out the 7 laws of mind. Are we in alignment? Let's get the 12 universal laws out and see if we broke any universal laws. Instead of us running around talking about what somebody else did, let's get our spiritual alignment together. Let's get our soul evolution together. Let's take accountability for our soul. Let's take accountability for our unhealed emotions. Let's take accountability for our lack of communication. Let's take accountability for our jealousy, our envy, our sins that we are not healing from. Right? Because if you ain't healing from that, then you out here infecting people. You out here making people sick. You out here part of the problem because you are not the healing solution. Okay? Gratitude, gratitude. Yes, gratitude. Okay, so our deeper understanding leads us to another kind of power, a power that loves life. In every form that appears, a power that does not judge what it encounters, a power that perceives meaningfulness and purpose in the smallest details upon the earth. This is authentic power. When we align our thoughts, emotions, and actions with the highest part of ourselves, we are filled with enthusiasm, purpose, meaning. Life is rich and full. So now we no longer building our riches up in just earth. We are actually building up spiritual things. Because now we got healed emotions. We have happy thoughts. We're at our highest self. We're enthusiastic about living. We're walking in purpose. We're talking with purpose. We doing things with purpose. We just changed our life. I'm talking about we was depressed, walking around with no meaning, ain't want to live, and went from that low depression, low frequency anxiety, grieving, hurting, suffering, being in pain, lacking knowledge, loss, suffering person. Then you start accumulating this soul knowledge, deeper understanding. This deeper understanding leads to another kind of power, a power that loves life, a power that now walks in purpose, a power that now do things with purpose, a power that got meaning, a power that is purpose. Now you found a purpose for yourself. Now you are walking in purpose. This is self-preservation because now you are living from the soul. Now you operating from the soul. Now you excited about it. Now people can feel this. Now people want to be a part of this. People don't even know you. People like, hey, I don't know who you are, but can I come? I don't know where you going, but can I go? I don't know what you got going on, but can I be a part of it? Because it feels good. This is authentic power. When we align our thoughts, emotions, actions, and with our highest part of ourselves, we are filled with this enthusiastic purpose and meaning. And life is rich, and life is full, and life has meaning. We have no thoughts of bitterness. We have no memory of fear. We are joyous and intimately engaged with our own world, our own reality. This is to experience authentic power. Authentic power has its roots in the deepest source of our being. Authentic power cannot be bought. inherited, or hoarded. An authentically empowered person is incapable of making anyone or anything a victim. An authentically empowered person is one who is so strong, so empowered that the idea of using force against another is not a part of his or her conscience. No understanding of evolution is adequate that does not have its core that we are on a journey towards authentic power. And that authentic empowerment is a goal of our evolutionary process and the purpose of our being. We are evolving from a species that pursues external power into a species that pursues authentic power. We are leaving behind exploration of the physical world as our sole means of evolution. This means of evolution and consciousness that results from the awareness that is limited to the five sensory modality are no longer adequate to what we must become. We are evolving from five sensory humans into multi-sensory beings. Our five senses together form a single sensory system that is designed to perceive physical reality. So our five senses can only perceive physical reality. So when we move beyond the physical, that is spiritual, that is living from the soul. Most people who are stuck in three-dimensional beings who only have access to their five-dimensional self because they lack knowledge of their higher self. They lack knowledge that they could live from the soul. They lack knowledge that they could tap into this authentic power. They lack knowledge if they heal their emotions instead of suppressing them, that they could grow and evolve. They lack knowledge that that they are a soul and they have a spirit. They lack knowledge that your human form is just your personality, and if you don't work on it, then you're not evolving the soul, right? So the perceptions of a multisensory human extended beyond physical reality to the large dimensional, dynamical systems of which our physical reality is a part of. The multisensory human is able to perceive and to appreciate the role that our physical reality plays in a larger picture of evolution and the dynamic our physical reality is created and sustained. This realm is invisible to the five sensory human. Greed is it is impossible. It's I'm getting tongue tied. It is this invisible realm that the origins of our deepest values are found. From the perspective of this invisible realm, the motivations of those who consciously sacrifice their lives for higher purpose make sense. The power of Gandhi is explicable, and the compassionate acts of the Christ are comprehensible in a fullness that is not accessible to the five sensory human. All of our great teachers have been or are multisensory beings. They have spoken to us and acted in accordance with perceptions and values that reflect a larger perspective of the multisensory being. And therefore, their words and their actions awaken people. When they speak with high vibration. When they speak, They speak with truth that can be recognized. They speak with truth that can be felt. They felt with truth that you can connect with. From the perception of a five sensory human, we are alone in the universe that is physical. From the perception of a multi human, we are never alone. And the universe is alive. The universe is consciousness. The universe is intelligent. The universe is compassionate. But a five sensory human lack knowledge of that. So a five sensory human physical world is uncountable. And the physical world does not give that. The physical world does not make sense. Right? So you have to think we got five sensory beings that's plugged into the physical matrix. And they only understand physical things. And they only understand physical things that they could see, physical things they could touch, physical things they could taste, physical, they only understand physical things. So they don't understand divine intelligence, because divine intelligence, you have to have multi sensories in order to sense multi intelligence. You have to have multi-sensory in order to be intuitive. You have to have multi-sensory in order to discern. You have to have multi-sensory in order to be conscious. So these are opening up senses that a five sensory being can't, because they can't connect with it. So they can't live from the soul, because that spiritual realm is invisible to them. Okay? So it say, what does it mean to say that it is invisible? The invisible realm exists, in which the origins of our deepest understandings are located. What are the implications of considering the existence of the realm that is not detectable through the five senses, but that can be known and explored and understood by other human faculties that will open up if you can access your multi senses? When a question is asked that cannot be answered within the common frame of reference, it could be classified non-sensible, or it can be dismayed as a question that is not appropriate, or the person who is seeking the question can expand his or her consciousness to encompass a frame of reference from which the question can be answered. The first two options are easy ways out of the confrontation with the question that appears to be nonsensical or inappropriate, but the seeker of the true science will allow himself or herself to expand into a frame of reference from which the answer that he or she is seeking can be understood. We as a species have been asking questions since the beginning of time. A multisensory being is going to ask a lot of questions. They're going to question divine intelligence. They are going to question purpose in life. They are going to question anything that happens in their life. They are going to articulate questions. The time has now come for us to expand into this frame of reference that allows these questions to be answered. The larger frame of reference of a multisensory human allows an understanding of the experimentally meaningful distinction between the personality and the soul. Your personality is the part of you that was born into lives within and will die within time. To be a human is to have a personality. It's the same thing. Your personality is like your body, it is your vehicle of evolution. The decisions that you make and actions that you take upon earth are the means by which you will evolve. At each moment, you choose the intentions that will shape your experiences. and those things upon which you will focus your attention. These choices affect your evolutionary process. This is so for each person. If you choose unconsciously, you evolve unconsciously. If you choose consciously, you evolve consciously. So now you have to know the difference between being unconscious and being conscious. Because now this consciousness affects your life. This consciousness affects your decisions. This consciousness affects your experience here on earth. It affects your mind, body, and soul. See, people who operate from five senses will say that this is an opinion because they lack knowledge that if you are not conscious of your personality, you are not conscious of your soul evolution. And if you not conscious of your soul evolving, then you are not connected to the experience. So if you're not connected to the experience, that means you're not present. So if you're not present, that means you're not living from the soul. And if you're not living from the soul, that means you're unconscious of the soul knowledge. You're unconscious of the soul. You unconscious of the soul purpose. You unconscious of a lot of things that are involved in the soul. So you might want to, get your knowledge up about the soul because that's what you're here for. The fearful and violent emotions that have come to the characterize human existence can be experienced only by the personality. Only the personality could feel anger. The personality could feel hate, vengeance, sorrow, shame, regret, indifference, frustration, loneliness. Only the personality can judge, manipulate, and exploit people. Only the personality can pursue external power. The personality can also be loving, compassionate, wise. The personality can be full of wisdom. The personality can be full of experiences. Your soul is the part of you that is immortal. Every person has a soul, but a personality that is limited in its perception to the five senses. It is not aware of the soul. So, therefore, that's where they say people are soulless and therefore cannot recognize the influence of their soul. As a personality becomes multisensory, its intuitiveness, its hunches, its subtle feelings become important too. It senses things about itself and it senses things about other people. It senses things about situation. Its senses become heightened. So intuition become a part of your senses. Being intuitive becomes a part of your senses. Being empathic becomes a part of your senses. Being aware of others become a part of your senses. Being in tune with other people's emotions become a part of your senses. Now these are spiritual gifts because now you're able to read other people's emotions. Now you're able to tap into other people's feelings. Now you're able to relate to other people. Now you got a reflection. Now you can see yourself in other people. That's a soul reflection. Now you're not an energy vampire no more. Now you actually able to see them. You able to see when they hurt, and you're able to be compassionate. You're able to see when they frustrated, and you're able to help them with a solution. You're able to see when they're lonely, and you're able to provide them with company. Now you're able to see when they having conflicts with their personality, and you're able to direct them in the right direction to help enlighten them about their personality disorders. Now you're able to help people instead of harming people. Now you an asset instead of a liability. Now people want you around instead of, here come miserable. You know what I'm saying? Miserable people love company, but healed people don't want to be around miserable people, if that makes sense. Because when you start living from the soul, it's purpose. So now you got purpose. You don't want to waste your purpose on a miserable person. Now you want to be around people that got purpose too. Now you want to be around people that inspire you to get into your purpose more. Now you want to be around people that's leading you more into your purpose, right? Okay, so this is about authentic empowerment, the alignment of the personality with the soul, what involves, what how it happens and what it creates. And to understand these things require an understanding of things that appear usually to the five sensory human, but become natural once you understand the evolution. The five sensory perception is a journey leading to multi-sensory perception. And that you were not always meant to be a five sensory being. So this is going to be the end of this video, but in this video we learning about soul evolution. And soul evolution is going from a five sensory being into a multi-sensory being. So we have to understand that people that only operate with five senses cannot tap into their intuitiveness. They cannot tap into their um spiritual gifts. They don't have access to their spiritual gifts. Why? Because they're only in tune with their five senses. In order for you to tap into your spiritual gifts, you have to tap into your sixth sense. Correct? Because that they said you can't be a five sensory being if you can't evolve if you're gonna stay in five sensory being. So you have to elevate into this sixth sense because this sixth sense opens the doors to the heavens. Okay? So now we are able to open up this sixth sense, and now we are able to live from the soul. That is what the ancient pharaohs called the Uraeus. And that is how a pharaoh became a pharaoh, because they were able to open up their Uraeus, and their Uraeus opens up the other chakras. And they were able to heal themselves, and they were able to connect to the higher realms. They were able to connect to their higher selves, their higher avatars. Okay? So this is being able to connect to past lives, present lives. This is able to connect to ancestors. This is able to connect to other realms, other understandings, other realities, inner worlds, right? So like they said, it's a journey. So we're not going to learn everything today about it, but hopefully I helped you understand the difference between a multi-sensory being and a five-sensory being. And I do have a booklet available. The e-booklet is available on my website under the courses. If you were to go on the website, go up under the courses, you will be able to take the Soul Evolution course. There are worksheets. There is a playlist with music. There are audio books attached. There is a lot of information that was not discussed. There are worksheets. There are actual images. There is a lot of knowledge that is in this book. So it is a good investment if you are interested in learning about your senses and learning how to live from the soul and learning how to tap into this soul evolution. So I give gratitude to all of y'all that made it to the end. If y'all could hit the like button, make sure you hit the notification button. And if you could share this video, gratitude. Share it with someone that you know can benefit from the healing, because I will too. So I am Jazzy Gems. I give gratitude. Once again, my website, I'm gonna put this up here before I go. Well, I attempted to. It's not gonna let me. Okay. I also have that book available on my website as well. The Egypt 101, because we was talking about pharaohs, Uraeus being a high priest and being an alchemist. So I got a lot of that knowledge in my spiritual situation Egypt 101 ebooklet. But yes, so the library is definitely coming together. So there will be multiple ebooklets available on the website. So I will be dropping the website in the comment section at some point. It's not gonna let me do it right now, but I will get that there. So if you are interested, please reach out and let me know so I could get you directed to the right knowledge to help you evolve your soul and empower your spirit. Gratitude, and I will talk to y'all beautiful souls real soon. Peace.